Okay, we are here and back. Um, yeah, I think what I'm about to talk about is things in my life, ideas or thinkings that I see, um, and things perhaps that could be helpful to us. I kind of feel like these are shared conversations. It's almost of it's just like a salon. We're talking about ideas. I'm sharing about what I'm thinking, and yeah, I think today a big reflection um for me has been sort of the it's been I think it was a new moon, and new moons always signify new beginnings or even threshold moments where you have to imagine the possibilities for your life. um and I always take new moons as that it happens once a month, and the new moons is sort of a ritual to stand still and think. I've been working a lot over the last couple of days, doing a lot of different things, and I think that this process of like really thinking about how and where I want to be by the end of the year, for example, I think is in the idea that there's always new beginnings arriving in our lives, and that we have to take hold to these things. And yeah, and then really trusting my intuition. I think intuition is very important for the creative process. I think intuition is almost it's definitely like a more feminine thing, but not feminine in the sense of like women, but more feminine in the sense of that it's part of the family of the imagination, creativity, intuition. These sort of sensations of higher vibrations or forms or reaction to beauty or past, present, future. I think intuitions. I, okay. So they always talk about like the etheric nervous system, which is the largest clusters of neurons outside the brain and exists in your gut. And I feel like for me, when I'm walking outside and I have a gut feeling or an intuition about something, I have to follow it. I have to take upon that little hunch, because you never know really where it's coming from. Um, so I've taken today to really think about my intuitions, about the future, the directions that I have to take, the sacrifices I have to make. Because it's always, yeah, there's always a flow to these things. Always a flow to these things. And in LA right now, it's super nice. It's like there's a cool wind and a hot sun. So it's a really great combination. Feels like the fall is here, or the sun is still hot. I think it's gonna be a very cold winter. It's gonna be a cold winter if we're already feeling the cool air like this. Um, yeah, I think how does one harness their intuition? I think that is the ultimate question, really, because intuition is about heeding to the many voices inside of us. We have so many voices that climb and claim and proclaim things. Um, and so many of these voices could be as simple as an intrusive thought, like a thought that you don't want to have, but you're having it endlessly. Or it could also be things from your family, things you learned growing up, the voices of certain parents. Like they could also be the shadows and the voices that speak. And there could also be your own journey on this planet, things that you've been able to learn about who you are and how the world works through that. Perhaps you are a camper, or perhaps you love animals, or perhaps you like skydiving. So it's like all these expressions, creative expressions, or aspects of yourself have their own wills. And I think for me, a lot of the work of the imagination, of imagining the inner life and what would a world of the inner life look like for you, is something that I really hold true in terms of the method. But I think that when we are able to see all these different parts of ourselves, and we're then able to position these different parts of yourselves in such a way that will lead to a great intuitive force. I know I've talked about the great intuitive creative force. Everyone has it. Everyone is that thing. Everyone is that creativity. But I think there is a great intuitive force as well too. Um, a, a, a sort of knowing in a way. It's a knowing. I think it's a type of knowing. Um, I don't. I'm not saying that I've mastered it. I'm not saying that I've mastered it, but I do know of its existence. But by the fact that I know of its existence, magic can happen. So I think the flow here is really looking at one's life and seeing like what are the moments where you might need to be more intuitive about the things that you're working on. I think there is a sort of letting go that happens, but when that letting go is something, it's like there's a gut guidance that comes in. And I think that gut guidance, the gut God, the gut God, the gut God, I think has incredible powers. Since it's one of the oldest things, even before humanity became humanity. Um, it helped us as how we navigate through nature, how we escape predators. And I think a lot of people could discard these things for sure because it's like outdated ways of being in a modern society. But I do feel like the instinct, that instinct and intuition are, I think, are closely related, but are not the same thing. I think instinct is more of an embodied expression. Your whole body just vibrates. What intuition is more of an internal knowing that rises from you as well. So I think when we can understand that there is a reason why we're sensing certain things, and there is also a reason why we believe these certain things must be happening. So I think ultimately, like to have intuition in one's life is is an incredible power, I think, or at least to cultivate that in your life more, or wanting to cultivate that. Because the intuitive path, I think, is where healing happens most smoothly too. You forgive yourself for things that you never did or did. You forgive others as well too. Um, I think you also open yourself up more to the world and what the world has to offer. Um, and the intuition, I think, is to I don't know. I think it's to build new, beautiful, like structures that are healthy for our lives. Um, it's unconventional. It's very unconventional. I think this was 2 years ago that I started like trying to understand how do I live with my intuition. Like, how do I live with my intuition fully? Interrogate my logic, interrogate my heart, interrogate my soul, and like prioritize my intuition. Not like intuition is not like a combination of all these different things, but I do feel like there is something to um, living gut forward, and trusting your gut, trusting what you sense. If it tells you to run, you run. If it tells you to jump, you jump. And that perhaps it sees more than we can understand. It can imagine more. If there's neural connections in our guts, the second largest neural connections, and outside of the brain, that's what they call the gut brain. So you're telling me that your gut's also not able to dream, to imagine if there's neural connections there. I think so. There is a different imagination that exists in our guts, and the sooner that we, I think, trust ourselves more, I think it's a, it's strange to say trust yourself because it's like there are many aspects of ourselves. So yeah, this is an incredibly difficult thing, I think. But I think one can take daily actions, a daily thought process, or daily journaling around your intuition, or journal for a week, asking yourself questions. How is my intuition today? What did I do that were intuition led? Um, how is it benefiting my life? So I think there's many things that you can do um, to tap into this intuitive force. I really do think so. It's gonna be one of the things that's gonna save us, pretty much.